New lead, Xebico Fog, CP. The rescue party, which went out at 11 p.m. to investigate the weird story of the origin of a fog which since late yesterday was shrouded the city in darkness, has failed to return. Another and larger party has been dispatched. Meanwhile, the fog has, if possible, grown heavier. It seeps through the cracks in the doors and fills the atmosphere with a depressing odor of decay. It is oppressive, terrifying, bearing. Residents of the city have left their homes and gathered in the local church, where the priests are holding services of prayer. The scene is beyond description. Grown folk and children are alike terrified, and many are almost beside themselves with fear. Amid the wisps of vapor which partly veil the church auditorium, an old priest is praying for the welfare of his flock. They alternately veil and cross themselves. From the outskirts of town may be heard cries of unknown voices, uncanned minor keys. The sound resembles nothing so much as wind whistling through a gigantic tunnel. But the night is calm, and there is no wind.
I am a calm man, and never in a dozen years spent with the wires have been known to become excited. But despite myself, I rose from my chair and walked to the window. Could I be mistaken? Or far down in the canyons of the city, beneath me, did I see a faint trace of fog? Pshaw, it was all imagination. In the press room, the click of the sounders seemed to have raised the tempo of their tune. Morgan alone had not stirred from his chair. His head sunk between his shoulders. He tapped the dispatches out on the typewriters with one finger on each hand. He looked asleep. Maybe he was. But no. Endlessly, efficiently, the two machines rattled off line after line, as relentlessly and effortlessly as death itself. There was something about the monotonous movement of the typewriter keys that fascinated me. I walked over and stood behind his chair, reading over his shoulder the type as it came into being, word by word. Ah, here was the other.
Flash Xebico, CP. There will be no more bulletins from this office. The impossible has happened. No messages have come into this room for 20 minutes. We are cut off from the outside, and even the streets below us. I will stay with the wire until the end. It is the end indeed. Since 4 p.m. yesterday, the fog has hung over the city. Following reports from the sexton of the local church, 2 rescue parties were sent out to investigate conditions on the outskirts of the city. Neither party has ever returned, nor was any word received from them. It is quite certain now that they will never return. From my instrument I can gaze down on the city beneath me. From the position of this room, on the 13th floor, nearly the entire city can be seen. Now I can only see a thick blanket of blackness, where customarily are lights and life. I fear greatly that the wailing cries, heard constantly from the outskirts of the city, are death cries from the inhabitants. They are constantly increasing in volume and are approaching the center of the city. The fog yet hangs over everything. If possible, it is even heavier than before. But the conditions have changed. Instead of an opaque, impenetrable wall of odorous vapor, there now swirls and writhes a shapeless mass in contortions of almost human agony. Now and again, the mass parts and I catch a brief glimpse of the street below. People are running to and fro, screaming in despair. A vast bedlam of sound flies up to my window, and above all is immense whistling of unseen and unfelt winds. The fog has again swept over the city, and the whistling is coming closer and closer. It is now directly beneath me. God, an instant ago, the mist opened, and I caught a glimpse of the streets below. The fog is not simply vapor. It lives! By the side of each moaning and weeping human in a companion figure, an aura of strange and varicolored hues. Now the shapes cling, each to a living thing. The men and women are down, flat on their faces. The fog figures caress them lovingly. They are kneeling beside them. But I dare not to tell it. The prone and writhing bodies have been stripped of their clothing. They are being consumed. A merciful wall of hot, steamy vapor has swept over the whole scene. I can see no more. I can see no more. Beneath me the wall of vapor is changing colors. It seemed to be lighted by internal fires. No, it isn't. I have made a mistake. The colors are from above. Reflections from the sky. Look up! Look up! The whole sky is in flames. Colors are yet unseen by man or demon. The flames are moving. They have started to intermix. The colors are rearranging themselves. They are so brilliant that my eyes hurt. Yet they are a long way off. Now they have begun to swirl, to circle in and out, twisting in intricate design and patterns. The lights are racing each other, with each a kaleidoscope of unearthly brilliance. I have made a discovery. There is nothing harmful in the lights. They radiate forces and friendliness, almost cheerfulness, but by their very strength, they hurt. As I look, they are swinging closer and closer, 1,000,000 miles at each jump. Millions of miles, with the speed of light. It is light, the quintessence of all light. Beneath of the fog melts into a jeweled mist, radiant, rainbow-colored, of 1,000 varied spectra. I can see the streets. Why, they are filled with people. The lights are coming closer. They're all around me. I am enveloped.
The message stopped abruptly. The wire to Xebico was dead. Beneath my eyes, from the narrow circle of light from under the green lampshade, the black printing no longer spun itself, letter by letter, across the page. The room seemed filled with a solemn quiet, a silence vaguely impressive, powerful. I looked down at Morgan. His hands had dropped nervelessly at his sides, while his body had hunched over peculiarly. I turned the lampshade back, throwing the light squarely in his face. His eyes were staring, fixed, filled with a sudden foreboding. I stepped beside him and called Chicago on the wire. After a second the sounder clicked its answer. Why? But there was something wrong. Chicago has reported that the wire too had not been used throughout the evening. Morgan, I shouted. Morgan, wake up! It isn't true. Someone has been hoaxing us. Why? In my eagerness I grasped him by his shoulder. His body was quite cold. Morgan had been dead for hours. Could it be that his sensitized brain and automatic fingers had continued to record impressions even after death? I shall never know, for I shall never again handle the night shift. Search in a world atlas discloses no town of Xebico. Whatever it was that killed John Morgan will forever remain a mystery.